Hey, 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 happy Tuesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, howdy, howdy. I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at The Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com. Tonight is episode 306 of The Daily Dope, and it is Tuesday, May 21st, 2019. Tonight, I will actually be sharing a bit of a how to play, as well as reviewing Traveller Ascension Imperial Warrant from Daring Play Games, designed by my friend Terry Coleman. Hey, Slade Wilson's popping in into chat here. Yes, I had a great weekend. My nephew Cameron actually graduated from high school, so the ceremony was Saturday, the party was Sunday. I took Monday off because I figured, it's dragging a little tail, but I had already figured that ahead of time from the party. So I had actually recorded a first look at the Brotherhood of Steel miniatures for Fallout Wasteland Warfare. So that I put that video up yesterday, so people had something to occupy their time a little bit. But actually, Fallout Wasteland Warfare was one of the gifts I gave my nephew Cameron. So he had dug the miniatures. He didn't know that I had the Brotherhood of Steel core box, so I gave him that as well. So he was pretty pumped. He was really thrilled. I gave him a few games. So yeah, had a great weekend. Thank you very much. So back having a live show. As you can tell, Slade just chimed in. There is chat available on YouTube. It is not on screen. It's one of the ways that I keep some of the stranger commenters at bay, but I do keep an eye out on chat. So if you want to say howdy, or maybe you have a question, or maybe there's something about Traveller Ascension Imperial Warrant that you want to ask about, by all means, fire away. So, Slade mentions those are great minis from Modifius. The resin ones are actually better than the PVC. I did notice, which I did ding Fallout. I always want to just say Warfare, Fallout Warfare, but it's Wasteland Warfare. I did ding it a little bit because of the PVC plastic figures, and then you can purchase the same exact miniatures in resin, but they'll set you back like another $60. And I was kind of like, but the resin, pretty nice. I'm gonna actually start teaching my nephew how to paint minis. So hopefully he's into that, because I don't want to have him sitting there playing miniatures games with unpainted minis, because that is not kosher, my friends. So we got the Madman popping in. Oh my god, what a day. I don't know, is it? Hopefully it's not a bad day. Hopefully it's a good day for the Madman. Anyway, so as I mentioned, there is chat available. If you watch the video and you dig it, please give it a thumbs up. If you check out some of the videos on the Gaming Gang channel and you like the channel, please subscribe. Don't forget to ring that bell, because it will not only notify you when the stream goes live in about 5 minutes or so, it'll also tell you when there's a new video that's been posted. Say like yesterday when there was no live show, but I did post the video for the Fallout Wasteland Warfare minis. And of course, be sure to tell a friend. So, talking about subscribers, as Dan from No Enemies here and Flaming Huron pop in. Good work, YouTube, giving an announcement that I went live, says Flaming Huron. Yeah, it's usually within about 5 minutes, is what I've been told. I don't know. I don't follow what's going on YouTube. So, but, yes, I had the contest that was going on for my copy of Ghosts of Saltmarsh. This is the limited edition hardcover. I was going to do a giveaway if I got to 2,000 subscribers. I did not. Didn't come anywhere close. I think all in all, during the contest, I picked up like another 15 subscribers. So, sorry to say, no giveaway, but this is going to be part of, I don't know if I want to just do an auction or just do a straight out sale. Because I really do want to go to Origins, but I don't really have the finances to do Origins. So, plus, it's that weird whole being by myself thing. So, what I'm going to do is, on tomorrow's show, I'm going to show off some of the games that I am going to be culling from my collection. If people would like to jump on board, add some games to their collection, I will have some pretty fair prices. And basically, it's not going to be like pennies on the dollar. It's probably about half of the MSRP, plus, of course, shipping. But I will show some stuff off. I will have some GMT stuff. I'll have some goodies. I'll have some goodies out there. Maybe, fingers crossed, that'll get me. I figure if I can pull off about $400 total, that'll cover Origins for me. All right, so I've got news today because it was a pretty big weekend of news, actually. So first off, there is a new board game that's on the horizon from AEG. I do have the dope on it. Do want to point out, though, if you are one of those folks out there who do not like the tabletop gaming news of the day, by all means, check out the show notes below. There are timestamps you can skip right ahead. Anyway, but here's the dope on Eco's First Continent. What if the formation of Earth had gone differently? In Eco's First Continent, players are forces of nature, molding the planet, but with competing visions of its grandeur. You have the chance to create a part of the world similar but different to the one we know. Which landscapes, habitats, and species thrive will be up to you. Gameplay in Ecos is simultaneous. Each round, one player reveals element tokens from the element bag, giving all players the opportunity to complete a card from their tableau and shape the continent to their own purpose. Elements that cannot be used can be converted into energy cubes or additional cards in hand, or they can be added to your tableau to give you greater options as the game evolves. Mountain ranges, jungles, rivers, seas, islands, and savanna, each with their own fauna, all lie within the scope of the player's options. Eco's First Continent is for 2 to 6 players, ages 14 up, plays in 45 to 75 minutes, and will carry an MSRP of $59.99 when it arrives on October 25th, which is actually the day after my birthday, which also happens to be my mom's birthday. Zoinks! So, yes, kind of wild. Yes, my birthday is the day before my mom's birthday, and I always have joked for years that I was the only birthday present she could never return. Dun-dun-dump. All right, so this looks kind of interesting. This is another John D. Clare design. I keep joking around that AEG is going to have to change their name to John D. Clare Games because he has been designing a lot of stuff lately. Hey, Slade Wilson is saying their birthday's tomorrow. Well, Slade, happy birthday to you. Very cool. All right, moving right along. Got a lot of role-playing game news today because there's a certain company over the weekend released a lot of role-playing game news, but I'm not there just yet. But Cubicle 7 Entertainment has announced that a new edition of the One Ring role-playing game is coming. It's on the horizon. I've got the dope. The year 2011 saw the release of the One Ring role-playing game, Adventures Over the Edge of the Wild, our first publishing venture into Middle-earth role-playing. The award-winning game was hailed as the best way of bringing Middle-earth to the gaming table, thanks to its thematic rules and focus on capturing the feel of this iconic setting. To this day, the One Ring has spawned multiple supplements and a sister line of publications for 5e, Adventures in Middle-earth. Players of the game have traveled far and wide across Middle-earth, from wild Rovanian and desolate Iridor to Rohan, adventuring for more than 30 years of game time. 8 years after its debut, it's time for the One Ring to enter a new era. Today, we're very excited to announce that we are currently hard at work on a second edition of the One Ring role-playing game. The One Ring, the Lord of the Rings role-playing game, will launch between Q4 2019 and Q1 2020 with the core rules and starter set. There are quite a few products that are in development. There's the One Ring, the Lord of the Rings role-playing game core book, which will be 352 pages featuring stunning new art, maps, rules for character creation, and everything you'll need to adventure in the lands of Middle-earth. There's the One Ring, the Lord of the Rings starter set. Explore the Misty Mountains and reclaim the Horn of the Storm, and the perfect introduction to the One Ring role-playing game. This box set includes a 62-page adventure, a 48-page guide to the lands of the Misty Mountains, set of dice, 6 pre-generated characters, character handouts, tokens, and more. There's the Lore Masters screen and Legends of Middle-earth, a beautifully illustrated Lore Masters screen along with a 32-page collection of mini adventures that Lore Masters can drop into their games. There's the Fell Foes, a dedicated bestiary containing fell foes and dangerous creatures from all across Middle-earth. There's Minas Tirith, the Tower of Guard. It just doesn't sound right. The Tower of Guard. Wouldn't it be guards? A guide to the city of Minas Tirith and its surrounding lands. The Entries of the King, a campaign adventure set in Gondor, written by Gareth Ryder Hanrahan, author of The Darkening of Mirkwood. There's Moria, the Long Dark. Explore Khazad-dûm deep beneath the Misty Mountains in this long-awaited adventure for the One Ring, the Lord of the Rings role-playing game. Of course, I'll be sure to keep you in the loop as more details emerge about the One Ring 2nd Edition, when they're coming out, MSRPs, and so on and so forth. So Dan from No Man Enemies here asks if I'm a Lord of the Rings fan. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed the trilogies. I've read the books and The Hobbit umpteen times over the decades. I want to say I first read The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings when I was in 6th grade. I think it was 6th grade. It was pretty strange. I was one of these kids where I'm in like 6th grade and I'm reading The Stand. 6th or 7th grade, I'm reading The Stand by Stephen King. I think that edition was like 1,200 pages, 800 pages, something like that. And other kids were all reading like Nancy Drew, the Hardy Boys. But yeah, I'd say I'm a Lord of the Rings fan. I enjoyed the Lord of the Rings. I thought the One Ring, see, I reviewed the original 2-book slipcase that came out, the Adventures on the Edge of the Wild or whatever it was called. And I thought it was all right. I thought it was decent. It's a little different. The role-playing game's a little different because it really kind of brings journeys and stuff into it, and some people like it, some people don't. So Slate says they're excited for the Amazon show. I don't know if I can say the same. Gotta be honest. I don't know. Although they've done a great job with Man in the High Castle. I hope it's more Lord of the Rings and less Silmarillion. So, hey, Rob Moffat's popping in. Good to see you, Rob. Welcome aboard again tonight. So, as I mentioned, there's a company that had a lot of role-playing game news this weekend because the D&D Live 2019 event actually was going on this last weekend, and there is loads that's been announced, especially the next adventure supplement, as well as other Dungeons & Dragons goodies. And I've got the dope on Baldur's Gate, Descent into Avernus, and more. Forge your fate in Hellfire. Diabolical dangers await in this adventure for the world's greatest role-playing game. You always know it's Wizards of the Coast doing the sell sheet when they call it the world's greatest role-playing game. Other people call it the world's oldest, or world's first, or world's most popular. So, welcome to Baldur's Gate, a city of ambition and corruption. You've just started your adventuring career, but already find yourself embroiled in a plot that sprawls from the shadows of Baldur's Gate to the front lines of the plane-spanning blood war. Do you have what it takes to turn infernal war machines and nefarious contracts against the archdevil Zerial and her diabolical hordes? And can you ever hope to find your way home safely when pitted against the infinite evils of the Nine Hells? This heroic Dungeons & Dragons adventure book takes players from levels 1 to 13. 13, that's bad luck. Don't you know that's bad luck? Then again, you are exploring like 9 levels of hell, so okay. Anyway, you can go from levels 1 to 13 as your players journey through Baldur's Gate and into Avernus, the first layer of the Nine Hells. Baldur's Gate is among the most iconic locations in fantasy culture. Yeah, okay, I'll give it that. A mist-cloaked metropolis on the Sword Coast, it's a place of history and a home to heroes. The book introduces the infernal war machines to 5th edition D&D, battle-ready vehicles you can customize as you blast off into the Blood War. Dungeon Masters will entice their heroes with Devil's Deals, designed to lure adventurers with the ultimate temptations of power and treasure. Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus will be releasing in game stores digitally and everywhere on September 7th, 2019. It's going to carry an MSRP of $49.95. So, I did not watch any of the live stream for D&D Live this weekend because I was busy. So I had a graduation ceremony to be at and party and stuff like that. So I wouldn't mind have checked it out. So so number one, I'm happy to see that we've got new stuff. It's a new adventure as opposed to Ghost of Saltmarsh, which were all previously released adventures, just, kind of tweaked for 5th edition and, expanded upon. So I just reviewed it last week. Today it came out, Ghost of Saltmarsh, and of course, I liked it. I did give it a recommendation. But I did point out that I was hoping that the next big adventure supplement would be all new. It is all new. So that is cool. These infernal machines, though, seem kind of weird. I saw a couple of images for WizKids minis that are coming out, and they're like big, like tanks. They're almost like tanks that look like they're almost like helms with visors and stuff. I don't know. They look kind of weird. So I have no idea. Do not know. Plus, I do find it kind of weird where it's talking about where there'll be Devil's Deals designed to lure the adventurers with ultimate temptations. What if you're playing like lawful good characters? I don't think you can do that. So this was not the big, yes, Rob, tanks. Yeah, kind of like tanks. Don't know. I'll have to see how it's how it's put together, what they do with it. Personally, if it's something that's kind of silly, I would just throw it out. I've already told everybody before, I don't run anything the way it's presented. I just tear things apart. Anyway, I was going to say, there's loads of stuff going on with D&D because there's also the Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus Dice and Miscellany box. No joke. It's called Dice and Miscellany. And I've got a little bit of dope about that. Infernal Fortune Finds Form. FFFF. Premium dice for the world's greatest role-playing game. From the streets of Baldur's Gate to the front lines of the Blood War, the dice you cast might be your last. This box will include 11 dice, 2d20s, 1d12, 2d10s, 1d8, 4d6s, and a d4. A durable lined dice tray, which also works as part of a 2-piece dice box. 20 double-sided cards with encounter tables and story content for the Devils and Demons of the Blood War, featuring exclusive art from Max Dunbar. Exclusive content card for strange encounters and trinkets one finds in Avernus. A fold-out map of Avernus for player use. A sizing chart for Blood War demons and devils. The Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus Dice and Miscellany box will be available September 21st and carry an MSRP of $24.95. So those are the two releases that are tied into the Baldur's Gate. So pretty interesting. I like dice. I think dice are cool. I don't get crazy about dice. I'm not one of these people who backs like Kickstarters for oddball dice. Although these dice do look kind of cool. They do kind of look, like Hellfire-ish. So there's plenty more D&D news though, because also on the horizon is the Dungeons and Dragons Essentials Kit. Don't know why they're calling it a kit, but I've got some dope. Unleash your imagination. Everything you need to create characters and play the new adventures in this introduction to the world's greatest role-playing game. Dungeons and Dragons is a cooperative storytelling game that harnesses your imagination and invites you to explore a fantastic world of adventure, where heroes battle monsters, find treasures, and overcome quests. The D&D Essentials Kit is a new introductory product meant to bring D&D to audiences interested in jumping into a fantasy story. This box contains the essentials you'll need to run a D&D game with one Dungeon Master and up to 5 adventurers. A newly designed rulebook onboards players by teaching them how to make characters, and the included adventure, Dragon of Icespire Peak, introduces a new one-on-one rules variant. The D&D Essentials Kit will carry an MSRP of $24.95. It'll be available at Target exclusively on June 24th and everywhere else on September 3rd. That is quite a while for Target to have an exclusive on this. So in essence, what we're seeing is this is another starter set. Although I don't see any dice. And there's no mention that there's dice included with it. But I would kind of think it probably does. But this could be kind of interesting. So we got another introductory adventure. So that's cool. I'm not sure what they're talking about with this one-on-one rules variant. Is it just one player, one dungeon master? Do we need a variant for that? I don't know. But yes, it is a Target exclusive for a couple of months. More than a couple of months. Pretty sweet. Then, finally, there's the Dungeons and Dragons versus Rick and Morty adventure. The world's greatest role-playing game meets television's most dysfunctional family. What could possibly go wrong? Coming this fall, D&D has partnered with Adult Swim to bring this box set, blending the world of Dungeons and Dragons with the mad, narcissistic genius of Rick Sanchez's power gaming sensibilities, and includes everything a dungeon master needs to channel their inner mad scientist and run a Rick-rolling adventure for up to 5 players, levels 1 to 3. Dungeons and Dragons vs. Rick and Morty will carry an MSRP of $29.99 when it arrives on November 19th. Paul Nolan's popping in. Good to see you, Paul. So the Madman says, could be fun, but another money grab. So here's what I'm thinking, because I have not seen a ton of information about this outside of what I just shared. I have the feeling this is going to be an adventure book. This is not going to be like that starter set for Stranger Things, that awful junk. I think this is going to be more along the lines of the book that's coming, I believe it's next month. That is the Acquisitions Incorporated, kind of like a setting book and things like that. I think that's what this will be. I think that's what it's going to be. Plus, I sort of think it's probably going to be based on the 4-issue story arc that IDW Publishing did, which was Dungeons and Dragons versus Rick and Morty. So, don't know. I'll have to check that out. So Paul Nolan says, Traveller had to be, so it's all Traveller tonight. So Paul Nolan had to be here. Paul had to be here for Traveller Ascension, Imperial Warrant. Hang on to your hats, everybody. All right, so my final news piece, like I told you, there's quite a bit of news. The Expanse role-playing game is now available in PDF from Ronin Publishing, and I've got the dope. The Expanse role-playing game brings James S.A. Corey's award-winning series of science fiction novels to the tabletop. Using the adventure game engine, rules that power Green Ronin's Fantasy Age, Blue Rose, and Modern Age RPGs, The Expanse takes players to a far future solar system where humanity is divided. Martians, Belters, and the people of Old Earth struggle for political power and resources, but older alien forces are stirring in the universe, and human history is about to take an unexpected new turn. The Expanse RPG applies the fast-playing, stunt-powered age system to spaceships, solar colonies, adventure, and intrigue in the far future, where the actions of the characters may change the course of history. Yes, Pinky has arrived. That's why you may have noticed a couple minutes ago I kind of peeked off to the side here because I saw her moving around. I was like, all right, let's make sure she's not up to any trouble here. So yeah, so she came down here so she can make sure everybody knows she's here. Right, Pinky? Go on, have a snack. Anyway, the 226-page core book is available at DriveThruRPG for $26.95. There's a 46-page GM's kit. It is available for $9.95, both in PDF. And of course, as I always point out, if you are going to swing over to DriveThruRPG, the gaming gang, thus the Daily Dope, is an affiliate of the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to head over to DriveThruRPG, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banners. That way, if you do happen to make a purchase, I get a little portion of that. When I say little, I mean little. But I got to admit, it all adds up. And it really does help out. I mean, there are tons and tons of purchases people make through my affiliate link. And I really, really appreciate that a lot. So I will jump into making some responses to some of the comments in chat in just a sec. Do want to point out the Expanse RPG. You know what? I would love to really check it out. I think it should be pretty cool. I really love the Expanse. I like the show. I've gotten into the audiobooks. But is it me? But isn't $26.95 for a 226-page PDF kind of pricey? And that 46-page GM's kit for about $10? That's ridiculous. I look at PDFs should fall around 10 cents a page is kind of how I sort of look at it. Maybe a little bit less than that. Now, granted, of course, I understand this is a licensed product. I'm sure they got a good chunk of artwork in there. So, but I don't know. I mean, $27 for a 226-page PDF is kind of pushing the boundaries, I think. It's just my personal opinion. So Paul Nolan says, took the night off and sent the women to the movies. Dan says, looks like that sci-fi video game. What's it called? Mass Effect. No, absolutely nothing like Mass Effect. Dan, if you have not checked out The Expanse, allow me to recommend it highly. I kept recommending it to Elliot Miller, my best friend over at voiceofe.com. And I think he finally started to check it out when the third season started to air. I kept telling him, dude, you gotta see this show. It's awesome. It's excellent. But you gotta make sure you see it uncut. Because it's kind of weird when they'll drop an F-bomb and it gets bleeped. And sort of like, what? Especially if you watch Happy, which is on Sci-Fi. And there's a lot of F-bombs. There's a lot of weird stuff that goes on in that show Happy that I'm kind of surprised. It's like, this is an HBO, man. Then again, a lot of people don't realize, I know I'm going to go off on a tangent here. A lot of people don't realize that if it's a cable channel, even if they have commercials and that, they could show whatever they want. They don't have to edit anything. They could show the same amount of violence and nudity and things like that, like HBO or Showtime or Skinamax. Just because they have commercials means nothing. So a lot of people kind of freak out when they're like, wow, I can't believe that, somebody said whatever on this, on FX. It's sort of like, doesn't matter. And I see more and more of that now too. So, although I have to say it's kind of funny. I remember I was a huge fan of Mad Men, and it seemed like Mad Men had, they were able to drop the F-bomb once per season. Once per season they could drop the F-bomb. So what is coming up on this week's shows? So, I got a package from GMT today. So my good friends over at GMT Games sent me The Last 100 Yards, which is a World War II game. This almost looks a little squad leader-ish almost. And yes, I know it's not going to be squad leader. But it sort of has that kind of look to it. So this is brand new. This just arrived today. We're going to actually unbox and take a look at this. So that will be pretty cool. Also, Command and Colors Medieval arrived. So that's pretty cool. I would like to introduce my nephew Cameron to some of the Command and Colors stuff. Because it's not overly complex. It's pretty cool. Rob Mob is like, GMT, oh yeah! So, that'll be in the future. Command and Colors will be in the future. So, on Thursday, I think we're going to take a look at Cyberpunk 2020 from R. Telsorian Games. Sammy's supposed to be doing a review for me on this, so we will take care of that. Then, on Friday, I will be reviewing Warfighter from Dan Verson Games. Yeah, I pushed this back from Wednesday just so I could take a little break because it's been a lot of reviews. It's been review. So sometimes I need to kind of take a little break and be like, oh yeah, it's an unboxing. Sweet. It's a first look. Hey, we get the page through a book or something. Nice. So let me clear some of this stuff up. Falling down all over. All right, so before we jump into my bit of a how to play and review of Traveller Ascension Imperial Warrant, please let me remind everybody, if you are a fan of thegaminggang.com, if you enjoy videos on the Gaming Gang channel, please consider making a small donation to Lil Bub's Big Fund and the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Yes, Lil Bub's Big Fund does provide grant monies to organizations around the United States who care for special needs animals as they await adoption. So, I know I point this out all the time. You know, some of these animals could be older, maybe they require medications, maybe they're blind, maybe they're deaf, maybe they have mobility issues. But regardless, these animals still deserve to find loving homes, and that's what Lil Bub's Big Fund helps to do. I want to also point out that 100% of all monies that are raised for Lil Bub's Big Fund is awarded as grant monies. Very, very important to point out. So I always mention that because, yeah, the Gaming Gang is, you know, it's not a for-profit thing, right? That's one of the reasons why I kind of talk about the Origins, you know, going to Origins. I guess I'll probably, you know, call some of my games out of my collection to raise some cash to go. Because I just feel weird doing a Kickstarter, right? You know, I don't know. It's just not my style, right? I don't, you know, I get advertisers once in a while and stuff like that. And like I said, I make a little, you know, little bit from the drive-through RPG and stuff like that. Enough to pay for like the hosting for the website. But I don't know. I feel strange, like doing a Kickstarter, right? And then like hitting people up for like advertising, or also like a company wants some Kickstarter coverage, like a preview or something like that. I don't know. To me, it feels like you're playing both sides of the fence. And to me, that's a little weird. All right, so regardless, I'm not going to pontificate about that. Fingers crossed, see about going to Origins. Anyway, so I'm sure people are tuning in because I want to check out Traveller Ascension, Imperial Warrant from Daring Play Games. Game is designed by Terry Coleman. I am not sure who does the artwork. Let's take a peek. Because sell sheet info did not give me that info. Do we got credits floating around? Not really. But there is artwork here, so I don't know. My apologies. I do not have the artist's name. Anyway, the game is for 2 players. There's an expansion you can increase up to 4 players, but the core game is for 2 players. I'm going to say about ages 14 and up. I know the indication is younger kids than that, but I don't think so. Plays in about 2 or more hours. It does carry an MSRP of $79. $79.95. I will take a sip here before we switch over to the other camera. So, I had an unboxing, and we took a first look at Traveller Ascension Imperial Warrant, and from here on out, I'm just going to say Imperial Warrant. So, I had a while back, and I have gotten this to the table, and there's things I like about this game, there's things I don't like about this game. I'm going to kind of give you kind of a higher level view of what's going on here. Let me zoom back out. There is a lot of stuff. Whoops, there we go. There's a lot of stuff with this game. The box is actually pretty packed. In fact, once you take everything out, you kind of have a hard time putting it all back together again. So that's cool. It's not like you open it up and it's a big box full of air. So the premise of Imperial Warrant is that it's I want to say, I think it's like the third Imperium, and what's going on here is there's a new emperor, and there are planets that had lost contact, and you are going out to rediscover these planets and reestablish contact with these planets. So that is your Imperial Warrant that you have. You are not like some big like warlord or anything like that. You tend to be fairly small. So as far as like different ships and forces and things like that, you're not going to have like huge, massive fleets or anything like that. So it's a bit of a 4X to this. You're going to explore the worlds. You're going to try to exploit the worlds. You're going to try to defeat your enemies either militarily or economically or through sabotage and dirty dealing, I guess we'll say. So there's just a lot of stuff going on under the hood here. So the main appeal is the Traveller name. So people are no doubt wondering, hey, if I'm a big fan of the Traveller role-playing game, am I going to enjoy this board game? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. So, kind of give you a premise. We're gonna go around. I'm going to show you some stuff. I'm going to point out right away, you'll need a big table to play this, because I have these planets kind of set up and connected, but you need way more than this. Depending on the scenario you're playing, you will have many more of these systems in play than I do right now. So you've got these different systems, and depending on the scenario that you play, so we've got the scenario book here. There's even a solitaire scenario for you to play. But depending on the scenario is how you're going to set up the system. So for an example here, scenario 1, we would actually have these different systems. A would be where we're actually starting off, where the players are starting off. So we've got a budget. It's going to tell us what special rules we've got, the victory conditions, as well as recommended add-ons that you can add into the game as well. So this is kind of a training game. So you're going to set up the system. You're going to lay out all of the buildings for each of the players. So we've got red buildings and we got blue buildings, because the two players, one is red and the other is blue. You're going to set out. There's actually I like these boxes the way these are put together. We've got these little storage boxes here. I thought that was a nice touch. So for the planets, we're going to have society tiles. We're going to have resource tiles as well. We want to put them. We can either put them out on the table so we can't see them face down, or you can put them in here, so angled so that they're kind of effectively face down as well. So because as we discover these planets, we're going to find out, well, what kind of tech level do they have? What sort of resources do they have for us to exploit? What kind of demand do they have for resources? Because you can set up different trade networks. So that's going to go here. So you got that. Each of the players are going to take their minis, and the minis are just plastic here. They're the flat plastic with the artwork on them. They're pretty cool. I thought these were pretty nice. We'll zoom in and take a closer look at them in just a couple of minutes. Another thing we also have is each of the different ships, each of the different assets, so what they're considered, are going to have these discs with different values on them. We're going to keep those stacked as well off to the side. Each of the players are going to have their own kind of player board here. So the player board is actually broken up into 3 pieces. I'll take these off here. So we've got military, diplomacy, shadow, science, economic, movement. Shadow is basically subterfuge, spying, assassination, things like that. I'm going to flip this over real quick. So when you're first learning the game, the recommendation is that you play it with the gold side here. So the number of actions, available actions, I should say, are actually kind of cut in half, even more than half on a lot of these. So that's to kind of get you up to speed. You want to do that as quickly as possible because if you're playing just with the kind of starter, the beginner training actions, there's a lot of stuff that's part of the game that you're not going to actually get into. So the sooner the better. Personally, we skipped right past it. We skipped past it because it was kind of like we played a few turns with the starting like training actions, and we found ourselves with turns that we couldn't do anything, or maybe we didn't want to do something. So we've got a lot of decks of cards as well. I'm going to go through some of the cards because this is a card-driven game. So we're going to look at the actual cards. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. These are the main action cards here. We're going to have a secret deck, which is kind of like for adventuring. Gives it kind of an RPG feel to that. We've got decks for diplomats. We've got decks for shadow agents. And we've got decks for soldiers. I have them all stacked together because separating them all out, I don't have enough room. So I've just got these together here. So we've got the diplomats. Then we've got our ships. So we've got a deck for scouts. We got a deck for destroyers. And then we got a deck for cruisers. Those are the 3 kinds of ships that are available to us. So the main gist of the game is that each turn, the players are going to have their cards, their action cards. They're going to play their action cards. They're going to choose 3 actions they're going to perform in the first phase. They're going to choose 3 more actions they're going to perform in the second phase. So essentially what's going on is you're planning ahead. You have to plan ahead by so many cards. So first phase, you're going to be playing 3 actions. Then you get to choose your next 3 actions. You're not doing all 6 actions at one time. But you'll have this out, and this is where you're going to lay your action cards face down. Now I'm going to start zooming in. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to show some of the components off a little better. And we're going to take a look at the cards. We're going to take a look at the player board a little bit. So, as far as the minis, so we've got, for an example here, this is a diplomat. And you won't have an unlimited supply of these either. You only have so many of these. So, as far as the diplomat, I want to say right off the top of my head, you've got 6. So that is the diplomat. And of course, diplomats do certain things. Then you've got shadow agents, the spies. So you got the shadow agents, and the shadow agents, I want to say you get 4 of them. And then you've got soldiers. Soldiers are available to you as well. Oh, Dan's got to pop out. All right, Dan. Thanks for popping in. Check out the final thoughts and review when you get a chance, if you're interested in this game. So, anyway, so then we've got soldiers as well. You only get 2. So these are kind of like armies. These aren't like individuals. These are like armies. This isn't just a diplomat. This is an entire like diplomatic envoy, and aides and all that other stuff too. So then we got ships. So we got scouts. So these are the scouts. These are the destroyers. And these are the cruisers. So pretty large there. Then we've got your player board. And this I will actually zoom back out a little bit for. Whoops. So you got the player board here, and it's going to break down. Let's push this up a little bit. It's going to break down what's available to you as far as military, diplomacy, shadow science, economic, and movement. Below, we also have these little panels that you slip in. These little panels are actually factions. And there are 4 factions for each of these. So we've got, and you'll know where the factions line up because it'll show you, okay, so here's orange, here's green, there's orange, there's green. So these are mechanics. We also have a noble house private. This is a corporation. This is a noble house military. So this also has one on the other side as well. This also will show you how many of these actions are you allowed to take each turn. So remember, you got 2 phases, you got 6 actions in your turn. So depending on what factions you've got, may limit you as far as what you can do per turn. This isn't so bad. Everything's pretty much 2, 2, 1, 2. Then you got special abilities. So for an example, your corporation draw any 2 ship cards, you get to keep 1. Field repair a ship in any system, roll 2 dice for repairs. This is a finance noble house, gain +1 trade and power to any system where you have a factory. 2 economy for each valuta trade routes. Then we got our military, we got its corporation for artifacts, +2 economy for each artifact's trade routes, and use a shadow card for an economic action. So those are our special abilities that we have available to us at any time. So you always have to make sure that you pay attention to your special effects. So for an example, here we see the special abilities. It's showing us per game, we can only do this 3 times. Here, with the Noble House, this always comes into effect because it's basically giving us a bonus to our economy. Here, it's also showing us we can always do +2 economy for artifacts, and we can use a shadow card for an economic action twice in the game. So we can do this once, we can do this twice. So pretty easy to figure out. Now, we start getting into all the different actions that we can perform, but it'd be easier for me to kind of just show you the different cards that we've got to kind of jump into these. So to start the turn off, you're going to have 8 cards. To start the game off, I should say. So you're going to have 8 cards. You should usually have 2 cards at the end of your turn that you can either hang on to or you can discard. You can discard 1 or 2 to replace. So you're always going to have 8 cards in your hand to start your turn. So there is a hand limit, which is effectively 8. So let me show you some of these cards. So these cards are broken down. They have a few different things on them. So first off, this number up here is going to be initiative. So this number represents whose action is going to take place first during that phase. Because remember, both players are going to be laying down their 3 actions, and they're going to reveal their first action at the same time. That's the initiative. So this is a military card. So this allows us to perform a military action if we play this card. Let's proceed with all dispatch. Move 1 fleet twice at normal jump rating. That's the event. I can use this for an action, or I can use this as an event. And basically what it's telling you is this is along the same lines in some ways as other card-driven games. Be it if you've played Twilight Struggle or 1960 or Paths of Glory or any real card-driven game that's giving you options on what that card can do. There's other information on this card, but you get to choose, are you going to use that as the military action, or are you going to use the event? Now, when you're actually surveying different systems, you'll use cards to tell you, okay, so what kind of planet is it, and what else might be in that system. So, for an example, we've got the military. Well, there's another military. Any. So any means you can perform any action. So be it diplomacy, science, whatever you want to do. Then we've got the action there. We've got movement. We also have reaction cards. So the reaction cards, the event is played as a reaction, and this will show that this is a combat card as well. So it's a jump drive malfunction. This takes place in combat. You play this as a reaction to what's going on in combat. It says when one opponent ship attempts to withdraw from combat, it is disabled instead. Diplomacy. So we can use this as a diplomacy action, or we could play this reacting personal enmity. When an opponent tries to deploy an agent or diplomat, it's canceled. We got science. I think we got a lot of reaction cards here. Accidents will happen. That's the event. Science. Military, another military card. And we got a shadow card. So what would happen here is the players would be starting out at a locale, a central location, and they're going to go out and they're going to look to try to explore these systems and try to, by hook or by crook, basically bring them back into the fold. So what you're looking at is you've got budgets as well. So each of these little faction boards that I was showing you before, here I'll just pull one off, is going to have a budget number. So you're going to add these up from the boards, plus as you play the game, you're going to establish trade routes and find other ways for you to increase your budget, increase your power and influence, basically. Yeah, the cards are really nice. One thing about the cards too, and a lot of the aspect of this game too, is the coating that's on these. So you can take a dry erase marker and mark stuff off. So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty nice. Card stock is decent, not incredible, but it is decent. And so I would say if you were going to be playing Imperial Warrant a lot, I would definitely be sleeving these cards. So to kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about with playing your cards, laying down your cards for each phase, let's say everybody's going to start with a scout. Well, okay, so I take that back. It's going to depend on the scenario. So in the really basic game, in the training game, you're going to start off with a scout. You're going to start out with a shadow agent. You're going to start off with a diplomat. Now, one of the cool aspects about this game that I really like is the fact where it's got a little bit of a role-playing vibe to it. Because what will happen is when, like, say for an example, you've got the scout, you're going to take your card. That's going to be your card. Oh, that's kind of funny. Scout 1. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at the various different counters here, and we're going to put Scout 1, because that's what I've got. Scout 1 is going to get this token put on its base just like so. So we're going to get this showing that it's got a jump capacity 2, tech level 10, which is all, we're seeing all this stuff on the card. We've got sensors, missiles, attack, range, target. It's got 2 hull points. It can carry 9 passenger points. So you're going to actually keep this card. You're going to have this card handy. This is telling us all we need to know about the ship. Let's zoom back in and get a better look at this. There. So kind of give you an idea. So that's a scout card here. So as an example, let's say my blue player is getting a scout. Well, Let's say they got, and that's kind of funny. I just reached into the deck and got Scout 2. So you'll notice, okay, so we got Scout 2. Let's say that was the blue player. I'm the red player, they're the blue player. Well, if you look, they're different. The capabilities of these ships are different. So it's kind of, because this is the Errant Star and this is the Oroche. So that is one of the aspects that I really dig about the game, is that it's not, everything's not the same. So for an example, like this is tech level 10 ship, that's a tech level 11 ship. So kind of cool. And then you'll see the cost. So it costs 2. Remember I said you've got that budget that you add together? So I definitely dig that. So, and you'll do that with your ship. So for an example, if this ship got destroyed, right? This would go to the bottom of the scout deck. And there are more cards than there are the actual ships. So yes, it is very possible that you could end up running across the same ships again, but not too often, because you figured, I think there, if I remember right, I think there's 14 scout cards altogether and 10 scouts, or not 10, 12 scouts. So 6 for each side. And the same thing happens for the destroyers as well as the cruisers. And in fact, it's kind of funny because the cruisers aren't all the same either. So for an example, you could get a cruiser and it's actually really almost like a light carrier. I think that's what the CL stands for there. So kind of cool. Just like we've got the destroyers. Some of the destroyers aren't necessarily destroyers. Some of them are frigates. I believe they're supposed to be frigates. So kind of cool. Same thing with your assets. These are all considered assets. So we got a diplomat. Let's take the first diplomat card. Says we've got diplomat 2, right? So it gives us the diplomat's name, tech 9, jump 1, because you can either ferry assets around on ships, or you can kind of consider that they have their own ship they can travel in as well. So giving you an envoy skill. Then we get, it's going to tell you how many dice you're going to get to roll depending on what action they're trying to take. Negotiate, trade, treaty, admin, mitigate, mystery. You can send like your assets go like on adventures. That's what this secret deck here is that I was talking about. So, okay, so we've got that. So this would be our diplomat. So now we see it's diplomat 2. We go to our stack of little tokens. Slide this on here. There we go. Boom. It's going to show that diplomat 2, tech level 9. Because that's like the main thing you're going to be rolling with are their tech levels. The higher tech level, of course, is better. And of course, you're looking at if you have a difference, like what you're trying to do, your tech level is higher than where you're at, then that kind of gives you a bonus, things like that. So that would be our diplomat. We would keep this card. We would put this card off to the side. That's our diplomat. Same with our shadow agent. Let's grab a shadow agent here. So this is our shadow agent. So tech level 11, jump 1, agents 4. So we've got planetfall, sabotage, sedition, assassination, smuggling, and adventure. So this is agent 5. So we would go agent 5. Take this, slide that on there. Bingo. And of course, they're going to occupy areas on the board. Of course, they're not going to be there because, or I just put them because that is basically an unexplored planet. All right, so to kind of give you an idea what's going on here, and I will actually kind of try to go a little more high level because we're already getting into the thick of things. We're already at an hour mark, and I'm just kind of getting into the game here. But depending on, you got a turn track here as well. So depending on which scenario you're playing, determine how many turns you take. So it is possible that in a full 10-turn game, you would basically take 60 actions. You would play 60 action cards. So that being the case, you're probably going to end up reshuffling this deck at least once. About once. If you're playing that long. So, okay, so for an example, let's say I've got a scout. My scout is over here. Okay. Oops. So my scout has jump 2. That's what it shows right here. Jump 2. So this means I can go 2 systems. If they've been explored. So for an example, I'll zoom out a little more again. As an example, this is supposed to be a planet that we already have explored. Or it's our starting planet, what have you. So, if I play actions, let's see how I would try to want to put something together so I could kind of check out this system. Because what will end up happening is usually the two players will kind of go off on their own 2 different directions, kind of trying to see, okay, what do we got around here? Try to scout out the different systems, find out what's there, and then once you know what the planets are, then everybody starts jockeying. So, all right, Madman had to pop out. Thanks for popping by, Madman. See you next time. It's probably already gone since that chat message was like 3 minutes ago. Sorry. So, I'll give you an example, right? So, I would probably sit there. I got a halfway decent hand of cards. So, I got a bunch of military stuff that I probably don't want at the moment. So, if I want to play a movement allows me to enter a quadrant, redeploy forces, blockade, book passage, or withdraw from quadrant. Well, what I want to do here is I want to go here. I want to check this out. So I would go and I would play this. Of course, it's going to go face down. What do I need to do after that? Well, now, next, I need to play a science card. So because with science, I can move the scout, I can explore with the scout, I can map the star system, I can take planet fall with one of my assets, I can improve a starport, I can improve technology, or I can design a ship. So if I design a ship, when I build a ship, I'll use that card. So as an example here, I know I can move my scout with my movement card. So now, and I'm going to say that I've got my... did I put that card away? I think I did, like a dummy. Let me grab one of these shadow agents here. Yeah, okay. So, let's go... So as an example, I'm pretending that this is my shadow agent. So I'm going to say my shadow agent is actually on my ship. So I could put it together like that, or maybe I could put that on top of my card, regardless, whatever. Just indicate that they're on my ship. So I use that. I'm going to place that down. Then I'm going to place my science so I can scout. Then, remember, I have to actually have a planet fall for me to be able to find out what is here. I have to establish communications with the people of that planet. So I'm going to plan ahead and do that too. All right. So whoops, got the wrong guy. I meant to do this. There we go. Wait. Oh, I did save that guy's card. Damn it. Here's the action. Crying out loud. Okay, so we would be sitting here, we'd say, okay, all right, so first action for the first phase. So I got movement. I say, okay, so I'm going to use a movement card. My opponent, let's say they played something else, and I've got a 5. So I'd say, okay, if my initiative is higher, I get take my action first. Say, all right, I got a jump of 2, but I can only jump 1 if I'm going into an unexplored sector, unexplored system. We'll say we got this guy's with me as well. All right, so then we go, oh, well, what's going on? Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Okay, next action. Now I'm going to do science. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to explore. I'm going to see what exactly is the system here. So then I draw a card. Ugh. Oh well. So I take a look at this area here of the card. So it's going to tell us what kind of planet, A, B, C, or D. A is the best. So A is like an exceptionally good planet to exploit. B is above average. C is below average. D is kind of eh. So we see that we've got one asteroid going to be in here. Boom. And we've got 2 gas giants. So what happens when we have a D planet, we're going to only leave 3 open spots for us to build stuff. And you'll see in just a sec. So we got a gas giant. And we've got another gas giant. Just like so. So that only leaves us 3 areas here. So that's why I said this is the kind of planet that it's going to be like, well, we're not going to be able to exploit it a whole lot. So that was us scanning the planet. So to tell what sort of planet it is, you have to look at the, so for an example, if we see asteroids or empty space, gas giants, we know that this is going to be a D planet. Now, if it was something like this, if it was an A, we wouldn't put anything. Maybe if it tells us we have to put like a gas giant there, then we would. But anyway, let's just pop this back. And this is another aspect of the game that I like, is that we're actually kind of building these like planetary systems that are all connected with these pieces. Now, unfortunately, it's very easy for these to get knocked apart. And when you're setting up the game, this does take a while to set this game up, because you have to build your star system that you're going to be utilizing based on whatever scenario it is. And then you got to go get all your decks of cards out. You got to sort stuff out. You got to stack up your various counters and stuff, your various little standy pieces and stuff. So it does take a bit of time to set this up. Okay, so moving right along, kind of give you an idea. So if we come up to the next one, now I would do a shadow action, and it tells I can move a shadow agent, I can planet fall, I can sabotage, I can try to evoke sedition, I can make an assassination attempt, smuggle, steal, go on an adventure, if I want to go on an adventure. So once I make planetfall, then what we have to do is we go and we're going to see what do we have as far as society and resources on this planet. All right, we reach in here, pull a society out, and it's going to tell us that this has, let's zoom back in a little bit. This is tech level 9. So we got consumables 2 and 1 mineral. So that's the society. So that's going to go just like so. Now it would be possible we could pull this and have this say, oh yeah, wait, you're going to add another society if it says a +1. So we got a tech level 9. Now we're going to see what kind of resources we got. Valuta 2 and biologics, and it's +1 to the tech level. So that's going to go there. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to have one empty spot here that I could possibly build a building at some point, be it a star point, an outpost, embassy, what have you. So this is like an adventure. You've got all these different aspects to this as well. So jumping ahead a little bit, you're going to start doing stuff where you're going to actually, for an example, if I were able to set this up as a trade route, right? Let's say, for an example, and because it's possible that you could actually have resources and a society. You got resources here that people in the society actually want. So it's kind of funny because it's not a planet, it is an entire system. So this is basically saying this is what's in the system. So anyway, you can get to the point where you're actually, like for an example, maybe I've got a trade route that I've put together. So maybe it's a level 1. I can have level 1 or 2. So you're basically getting to where you're going to be adding these numbers for your power as well as your influence as you're playing the game. Just to kind of give you an idea of the different actions that are available. So military is move ship or fleet. Battle stations, which basically you move a fleet to an opposing fleet within jump range. You can put a world, you can lay siege to a world. You can assault a world, but you need soldiers to do that. You can have planetfall, but you have to have an asset in system. You can fortify, so you can increase the military. If you've built a military outpost, you can increase it by 1. And you can do a security detail, which is a reaction. So you can try to react to the other players' assets being in your system. Diplomacy, you can move your diplomat, you can negotiate, you can do a trade agreement, you can do a treaty, diplomatic solutions. Administration, mystery, once again, you're looking at the secret deck, the adventure deck for the mystery, and mitigation. Science, you can move a scout, explore the scout, map the star system, planetfall, improve the starport, improve technology, or ship design. Economic, you can requisition tech, you can improve your outpost, you can hire an asset, construct a ship, repair a ship, retire an asset or a ship. And then, of course, movement is enter the quadrant, redeploy forces, do a blockade. For an example, that'd be a blockade. Book passage for an agent or withdraw from the quadrant, which basically means moving away. Anyway, all right, so the name of the game you're playing for are victory points. So the victory points you're going to gain are going to be based sometimes on the scenario that you're playing, or just like for an example, your budget. So as you're increasing the your assets, like say for an example, like the resources here, or say I got a factory. Let's say the one building I build here is a factory. Now you see how all these are filled now? That basically means that nothing else could be built there. That's why this is a D planet. Oops. So maybe I have a factory too. So this is basically showing how not necessarily how powerful, but how well the output from that factory is going on. All right, so there's also combat, because you can get into combat with the other player. There's 2 ways to go about the combat. Where do I have the? There we go. This is one of the things that I wasn't so keen on, is the combat here. So you got 2 different ways you can go about it. You can do smart, or you can just do standard. So if you're a big fan of Traveller, then smart probably rings some bells for you. So you're basically, it's sensors, missiles, attack, range, target. So one thing to point out, as far as, for an example here, there's what they call flux in this game. So flux in this game basically means the success for you trying to do stuff. So you can have situations where you're like, let's say for an example, I got my diplomat here. So let's say I've got my diplomat here, and he's trying to, let's say he's trying to do a trade agreement, right? Okay, so he's gonna do a trade agreement. I take a look at my diplomat card to see how many dice it tells me I get for that. Let's just grab one again, just for the heck of it. So that'd be trade. So I'd get 3 dice for trade. Now to know what I have to roll to succeed is how many buildings, how many of these tiles are on this. So it's possible as you explore stuff, because you can find out more about the planet system. You don't always necessarily have everything revealed from like an A planet, A system, I should say. So for an example, I got my 3 dice. This is tech level 10, because remember 9 plus 1. So that's a 10. So he's actually -1. So it's going to be -1 success. So I would need a 1 or 2, but I get 3 dice. And I would fail at trying to negotiate a trade deal. Okay? So flux is basically how many dice you're going to get and the difference in tech level. So for an example, did I throw my ship someplace? I think we got him over here. Yeah, let's just grab a scout. Okay. So for an example, right? So I was talking about that smart. You got sensors, 2 dice, missiles, 3 dice. You get 1 salvo per combat. ECM. So the ECM on Scout 11 is pretty good. So it's able to avoid missiles. And then the missile size. So that's how many dice you're going to roll as far as like damage. Then we've got attack, which are like beam weapons, slug throwers, stuff like that. So we got spinal, beams, point defense, shields, and missiles to hit. Got your range, agility, and you'll see we've got little dice icons here. So, like I said, one of the cool things I really like about the game is how different all this stuff is. It's not just, oh, well, all scouts are the same. All destroyers are the same. Same with the soldiers and the diplomats and the shadow agents. They're all different. That said, it is possible, because this is all random, it's possible that every time you're getting an asset, they're not as good as your opponent. It happens because it's random. So that is possible. That can happen, and I'm sure that some people will not appreciate that. So anyways, so you've got combat. Like I said, the smart system, it's pretty detailed, and there's quite a lot going on in it. And I wasn't a huge fan, because a lot of the other stuff in this game is relatively abstracted. And personally, I don't remember Traveller being really super crunchy as far as, talking about the role-playing game. I don't recall that being super, super crunchy as far as starship combat. I don't know. Anyway, so also we've got these secret decks. We've got these secrets, which are kind of cool. You can run across a lot of cool different stuff. So this is when you send your diplomats or your shadow agents. So your diplomats can investigate a mystery. Your shadow agents can go on an adventure. And that's what the A and the M stand for here. That's adventure. That's the mystery. So some planets are better suited for mysteries. Some planets are better suited for adventures. So if you're able to succeed, and once again, you're doing that flux roll, you'll draw one of these secret cards. So it could be something that's going to give you a cool effect. It could be a reaction card. So I'll give you an example. I'll show you some. So we've got like rare psionic talent, stolen plans, planetary broker, leader for the people, alien architecture, new orders from headquarters, Imperial snafu. For some reason there's a bug flying around down here, and it's chilly. It's today, so it's like 50 degrees. There's a bug flying around down here. So anyway, like I said, we've got this is just another kind of like little role-playing aspect to the game itself. So there's a lot going on in the game. So once again, as I pointed out, after you've completed so many turns, you're going to tally up victory points. And like I said, depending on the scenario, will determine how many victory points you end up getting. I do want to point out that the budget comes into play because you have to be able to pay for the assets you've got out there. Now, it is possible for you to mess around with your opponent on their planets and ruin stuff and be able to basically take away income that's coming in from them, for them, I should say. So if you can't pay for what you got, you have to get rid of it at the end of the turn. So, but as I mentioned, you're basically just putting your actions, 3 actions for the first phase, 3 actions for the second phase, and you go from there. Once you've reached the end turn, you're going to tally up the victory points. Normally, it's how many systems do you control. That's usually what's going to help you out, is how many systems you control. There's all different stuff. So hang on. For an example, here's a scenario. Ascension. So victory conditions. 2 victory points per system mapped. So if you mapped those, 2 victory points per planet fall. So you're getting your victory points basically from exploration. So your main focus should be exploration as opposed to exterminating your opponent's forces. So for an example here, first step. So we got the basic game victory, which is in the rulebook right here. Artwork, here we go. Here's the artist, Donald Crank, Alex Wilcox, Alex Friel, and Becky Sieb. Here we go. Basic game victory. Player with the most victory points is the winner. Each power bar, these are power bars, are worth its face value in victory points. A player's power bars are worth double VP in systems that the player has established a treaty. In the case of a tie, the player with the most treaties wins. If still tied, the player with the most trade agreements. If still tied after that, lowest tech level total across all faction boards wins. So, like I said, there's a lot going on with Traveller Ascension, Imperial Warrant. So those are kind of the basics of the game, because you'll be building starships. So I shouldn't say, well, yeah, you are building ships. You'll be building embassies. You'll be building starports. You'll be building factories. You'll be finding out all these different ways for you to establish trade relations between different systems and things like that. You'll be sabotaging your opponent. You'll be trying to assassinate their diplomats. You'll be attacking if you have soldiers, if you have big enough ships to carry your military around. You can be attacking planets that way. There's all different things going on in the game, and a lot of it I like. Now, I'm gonna pretty much give you my final thoughts, and I'm gonna tell you some stuff that I'm not so keen on in the game. So, let's talk about the biggest problem with Imperial Warrant, and it is the rulebook. Now, the rulebook's 30-some pages long. Everything's pretty much laid out in the rulebook. It's not intuitive. This is a game, and I'm pals with Terry Coleman, who's the designer of this. So, as a designer, he knows exactly what he's trying to do. This game needed a little more development as far as the rulebook, because there's very, very little as far as like examples, right? It would be perfect if, like a GMT game, we had a few pages of an example game for just a couple of turns, 2 or 3 turns, to explain different things going on. There are a lot of things that are open to interpretation in the rulebook. You kind of fly by the seat of your pants. And unfortunately, there are really no updates as far as the rules. Now, I was like looking on, because I had a bit of a hard time piecing things together when we were playing this. That's why it's taken so long for this to actually get a review, because it has been kind of a pain in the ass, because things will pop up where you're like, so wait a second, can I do that? Or can't I do that? And then you go on to Board Game Geek, and there's no answers. And there are some folks on Board Game Geek who are not real thrilled that there has been really no support for the game. It's basically, here's your rule book, there you go. Now, that being said, there is somebody who's working on like a guide, because they are in contact with either Terry or somebody else at Daring Play who's kind of ironing out some of the rules issues. So if the rules get ironed out, this will be a hell of a lot better game. There's a lot of stuff that I do like. I do find interesting. I like the fact that, there's a lot of replayability because your diplomats, your assets are always different. I like that. I think that's very, very cool. I like the fact that, you go and you're mapping out sectors and you're exploring these planets. You're finding, different society levels and resources. I like the fact that you got the little mysteries and the adventures you can go on. There's a little bit of an RPG feel to it. Granted, you are the person who's in charge of the Imperial Warrant, so you're dispatching these assets to do your bidding, but these assets are all unique, and I got a kick out of that. I really like that. I like the way that the planets actually kind of, if it's an A planet, you're going to have 6 little pie pieces around it. If it's a D planet, you only get 3 areas that are going to show that something's there, right? Society, resources, or building something. So the D planets you can't really build much on, or is on the A planets, you're going to be able to, you're going to be able to put an outpost there. You'll be able to put a starport there. Maybe you put a factory there, or you decide you want an embassy there. A lot of different things going on. I like the fact that there's different approaches to taking over each of these systems. You don't have to be like all guns blazing or anything like that. In fact, to be honest, we had a great time playing it the last time we played. We really didn't fight each other at all. And one of the reasons is because I think the combat is I think the combat is just a little too much for what it's supposed to be. It just takes up too much time compared to the rest of the game, what's going on, in my opinion. So, although once you kind of get the hang of the combat, it does move along a little quicker, and there aren't a ton of ships involved in combat either, because usually you don't have a massive fleet. You can't have a massive fleet because you only have so many of the minis. I like the minis. I think minis are cool too. I think the component quality is really nice. One thing I do want to point out is the way that the sectors, the systems connect together with the little connectors, like so. Oops. And like so. And there are different, like, little jump points too. These are considered jump points. So some are blocked, some have have green. So there's different aspects of that too. But the problem is, they come apart really easily. So that is, I gotta nick the game a bit for that as well, because what I would personally do is I would just put the 3 different connectors, and if I could, I'd get away with it, I would just glue them. Problem is, you're not always going to have just the blank black. You might have something else instead. So your game table can be really cluttered with this game, and just the way that the planet systems are connected together, those connectors can easily pop out. So especially when you got a lot of them that you're putting together for a scenario, it can be kind of a pain in the butt trying to, because they won't line up exactly, and you're messing around and stuff like that. So I got to dig in a little bit for that as well. So I like the game. The rules just need a lot of work. I really think the rules need a lot of clarification. Like I said, I don't feel that this game probably got the kind of development that it should have gotten, especially with somebody who was just going to try to break this apart as much as possible. There are a lot of really cool pieces to the game, but the way the rules are kind of set up, those pieces don't mesh as well as they probably could. Now, that being said, if you're a big fan of Traveller, you're probably going to want to check this out, because I got to be honest, I think the rules are going to get ironed out. I don't think that it's just simply this game came out, now it's abandoned, because it didn't come out that long ago. I think it's been out, I think it started shipping out to backers and stuff a couple of months ago. And I would take a guess that if Terry has been kind of quiet It's probably because it took him so long to finally get this game out to backers that maybe he's kind of taking a little breather. So that's a possibility. So, so Paul Nolan says guilty. I'm going to take a guess. Paul is probably a huge Traveller fan. So anyway, so the reality is, on a scale of 1 to 10, as the game stands right now, I give it a 7 out of 10. I enjoyed it. It's a little more work to sometimes get through than it should be. Like I said, once those rules get ironed out, I would say this, this game is going to move into like the mid eights. So, and especially if you're a big fan of Traveller, you're definitely going to want to check it out too. So yes, Paul says he's been a fan of Traveller since '82, which is I think when I got the little box set. So, but I did not get into a lot of Traveller. Traveller kind of, even though I had a bunch of Traveller stuff and had Mega Traveller, Traveller 2300, I don't know, the basic Traveller just left me a little cold, little too analytical, but or just a little too matter of fact, I guess, in its presentation. Sometimes it really didn't draw me in, although I always thought it was pretty cool. Always thought it was pretty interesting. All right, so as I mentioned, I give Traveller Ascension Imperial Warrant a 7 out of 10. Once the rules get ironed out, I think it'll be a better game. There are some expansions that are available for it as well. So, and Paul says we had a lot of GMs in the group, so they had variety. Cool. Yeah. I was like the forever GM for most stuff. Luckily, every once in a while, I got to play something as just a player. Yes, Pinky, all right, relax. Pinky's back again. Okay, so that is it for tonight's show. A jam-packed big show. So, as I mentioned on tomorrow's show, I'm going to unbox and take a first look at the last 100 yards from GMT Games. This is a World War II, obviously enough, World War II game. So we will be taking a peek at that. So, as I always like to point out, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. By now you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Everybody who hung out in chat, thank you very much for keeping me company tonight. And of course, for everyone else out there watching, thank you very much for watching. Thanks again for watching The Daily Dope, presented by The Gaming Gang. If you like this episode, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And if you dig the channel, please subscribe. If you'd like to check out our previous episode, click right here. And if you want to check out a somewhat randomly selected episode, give a click right down here. It'll be like opening a box of Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what you'll get. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'm Jeff McAleer.